Thank you for having me, guys. This 1 hour of our lives, all of our lives, is extremely precious. Every minute counts, every second counts, and it doesn't sound like much, but it all adds up. So the fact that you've given me this hour, I truly appreciate that. And I'll try to make it the best possible for you, because I know how important it is, your time as well as mine or anyone's time. It's the most valuable thing we have in the end. Just ask any very, very rich person that knows that they might be on their last legs. They would probably swap everything they have for a bit more time. So I'm very interested in people's personal stories. That's why I think when we read a book or we watch a movie, we're always impressed when it's actually based on real life, because humans, I think we have that connection. We love hearing other people's stories. And as you know, a lot of our storytelling was done through word of mouth originally, and it still is in many cultures. And it's still one of the most precious things we have, been able to pass on our own stories, whether they be of suffering or they be of happiness, whether they be of failures or of triumphs. The next generation learn from that. I love hearing people's own stories. It's still open, isn't it? Because we're still alive, and that can change any moment. It's like a movie. There could be a twist any moment. So it's very interesting to discuss that. Of course, this is not a setting to do that too much, because it's a public setting, but one-on-one it's wonderful, I think, and I really appreciate the job I have, listening all day to all these wonderful stories that no writer could invent sometimes, twists and turns of life, and I'm sure you have your own. I have my own, of course, and I studied psychology after years of wondering what I was going to do. I pulled out of year 10, had 5-year break, then finally was convinced myself, I suppose, of finishing my HSC at TAFE. And yeah, through the, as you know, when you come from a working class family, everything you have, you build. Nothing's given to you for free. So it's rewarding once you get there. And I still try to keep my focus on why I wanted to do this. And doing this today is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. Being able to at least be able to get one message across to one person, I'm happy with that. A lot of people won't get that message or require someone else, and that's fine. But the more we do it, the more exposed we are to finding that message that will help us and will help our lives. So, and it doesn't necessarily need to come from a psychologist. I've learned a lot from homeless people. I've traveled a lot, and I've been in third world countries, and I've learned a lot from people that have hardly any institutionalized education anyway, but they have a lot of world education, and they're the things that we also need to keep our eyes open for. You always learn from a lot of people, from many people, probably everyone, as long as you keep your eyes and ears open. So today, I think I'm going to focus a little bit on routine, which is extremely important. Structure, routine, and having a plan. Personally, I was never a person that liked routine. I was a bit of a loose cannon when I was a kid, actually, and an adolescent. And actually, I'm 54 years old now, and really, I've had a really good routine, or I found the benefit of routine and structure only in the last few years, probably in my mid-40s. So a lot of you guys, I can see, are a lot younger and somewhere around there. But what I can say is that sometimes we rebel against that structure because we relate unstructured or unplanning, no routine, to freedom. I traveled a bit as a backpacker when I was younger, and there's nothing nicer than just waking up from your tent, looking out and thinking, oh, where am I going to go today? And having the freedom to choose whatever you want. And it's lovely. It's also scary because sometimes having that much choice can become overwhelming. And so you look at someone in a ute and go, I wonder where he's going, and just ask, and then, oh, let's go. And it is quite nice to have that freedom where there's no structure in your life. I think that works sometimes, definitely when you're on holidays, definitely when you're partying, you go out. I mean, definitely don't structure things. I think they're the times to just let your head down, as they say, and get in the flow of things and just react to the environment, whatever comes around. That's a good time to do that, I think, or else we're too robotic. We're human beings, so it's impossible to be happy if we're constantly like that. And we all know some people that are a bit like that. I have a little bit of empathy for them because they seem never to be able to relax. So that's very different. Structure, routine, and planning is for the other times of the day, the other times of our lives when we want to get stuff done. And it's extremely important. Then you can balance it out with a bit of unstructure and having a bit of fun, seeing where life takes us. But for 90% of the time, structure is very, very good. I talk to people every day, and I recommend between Sunday and Thursday night have a similar structure because people either work or study or whatever that may be. But even if they're not, it's good to have that structure. I know some people do shift work, and I know some people work different times of the week. If you're in the hospitality industry or so forth, some people might actually work Saturday, Sunday and have the Monday and Tuesday off. That's different. They can arrange that. But for most of us, between Sunday night and Thursday night, a good bed routine. That's where it starts from, my friends. Good bed routine. And today, I'm not going to spend my time here with you just giving you ways of doing it, because there's many ways. If you go on the internet, there's many routines that you can look at, many different ways of doing it, and you've got to find your own. So, whether you're going to use a calendar, whether you're going to write things down. I think maybe we can talk about that next time if I go there, because it becomes a little bit tedious. I think the most important part of this is for people to understand why it's important. Once you understand why it's important, then I think you can look into it. In my work, I find that if we skip that step, then people kind of don't do it because they don't really understand. So it's a little bit like getting fit. If you explain to people why getting on a bike or why running, why jogging, why stretching is actually good for your body and how the benefits from, people are going to be more inclined to do it. So in psychology, it's very, very similar. If we have knowledge, then we have power, my friend. So I think today, because 45 minutes, 50 minutes isn't that long, I think it's important to look at the foundations of structure, why humans need it, why we all need it, even people like me, a little bit bohemian, as we say. I'd like nothing better just to wake up and go with the flow and go to a cafe and write poetry and stay up at night on candlelight, just creating. Sure, that's nice. And there has been people throughout history that have done that. We know great artists that have lived their lives. But if you look at their personal life, a lot of the time it wasn't that good because they didn't have that structure. They had just too much fun, too much partying, that rock star type style of life, which could be nice in bursts, but unless there's an underlying structure, it's very difficult to be happy because you're just doing one thing, one extreme. And the balance, it doesn't matter what culture you look at, whether it's Western culture, Eastern culture, indigenous cultures, throughout centuries and millennia, the one thing that we all agree on is balance is the most important thing for our happiness, for our mind and for our body. So having those extremes balanced, work, fun, rest, play, that type of thing, the opposites are very important to have that. And so when we do talk about routine, we're not talking about it at 100% of the time. We're talking about it a lot of the time, and then we balance that out. So Sunday to Thursday, the bed routine is the most important thing. You start with bed. That's why, if any of you have got children or have nephews and nieces and that, or even just have spoken to parents, what's very important the first few months of our lives is the bed routine. And as we grow older, we forget that a little bit. We leave it aside because we're the only animals that don't react to what we need. So most animals, if they're tired, they will go to bed, they will go to sleep, they'll find a safe place. If they're hungry, they will hunt or they will try to eat. They'll reproduce at the times that are needed and so forth. So it's done through instinct, isn't it? Or intuition, as we say in psychology. But because we have our brain that's a bit more developed, we tend to sometimes separate ourselves from nature. And that isn't necessarily a good thing. It's very important to keep connected with nature because we are part of nature. And so when we don't listen to our bodies, when we don't listen to our mind, then that's when problems arise. Because we feel that we are above nature, and we're not. We're very integrated. And every now and then we're reminded of that. Like, for example, the last 18 months with this virus thing, we're reminded how fragile really we are, that an invisible creature can overpower us. And that's happened for a long, long time, And these type of beings are going to be around a lot longer than we are. They have been around a lot longer than we have too. What we need to do is be able to live with these things, same as with the environment and so forth. And again, all cultures, doesn't matter where from and how far back, usually emphasize a connection with nature, a connection with Mother Earth, as some cultures say. And not because it's a spiritual thing, because it is, but more because it helps us. It's actually beneficial to us. Or else we're always trying to fight our own nature. It's very important, the bed routine, that children start with a very, very strict bed routine. You'll find that parents do that. So it's the child's 1 year old, it's a pre-bed routine. There might be obviously dinner, then there might be a bath, then they get changed, they get to bed, they read a book, a cuddle, lights off and sleep. So the child understands what's coming next, and the brain loves that. The brain loves that. That's how animals, if any of you have animals, domestic pets, dogs, cats, or any other type of animal, they tend to see those patterns, what's coming when you walk into the cupboard to get food or something, they can tend to know. Us humans, we're the same. We love knowing what's happening. And so routine gives us certainty. So you're not surprised by these things. And the child learns that. Later on, as we grow older, we tend to fall away from that structure. These days, even more so, of course, with digital media, you find a lot of teenagers up a lot with phones and all that type of stuff. And I have a lot of parents that come to me for that type of issue, but that's a little bit different. For us, it's more important getting back to a certain routine and how important it is to explain to our brain that this is coming next. If I do this, this is coming next. And so the brain focuses on that. It makes it a lot easier then to do that next thing because the brain already knows. That's what routine gives us. So if you grab a child after he's eaten, put him straight into bed, it'll most likely start crying because in a way it wasn't expecting it. We need to expect certain things. And we've all seen sports people do rituals, right? Footy player, before they kick a ball, the pre-kick is the same mostly, in union, in league and so forth. Not so much in soccer because they do it so much that they don't need to go through that ritual, most of them. It's almost second nature, you kick a ball, Just like passing a ball would be in league, it would be in soccer. So they don't need that ritual. Although some do, like Ronaldo in a free kick, he does do a certain ritual. Why? Because the brain then focuses on what's happening. Okay, what we want is to connect very well my foot with that ball in a certain way, so it goes straight between those posts or into that goal. And the brain then knows, okay, this is what we're doing. So it doesn't matter about the crowd, doesn't matter about the wind, doesn't matter about what the other players are saying, doesn't matter about the score. We focus on this. And that's what rituals, that's what routine does. And that's why some of the professional players do these things. Tennis players, before they serve, usually do the same thing. Because we've worked out that the brain loves to know what's happening next. You can't surprise it. So start off with a bed routine. Sunday to Monday, I would suggest pick a time. It doesn't have to be that early, definitely not too late, but always stick to the same time. And half an hour before that, do the same thing. It might be, some people like reading, some people like watching TV, some people listen to music. Personally, I think, TV and all these laptops and phones, it's been researched, they're not that good for sleeping, but some people seem not to have a problem with it. If it works for you, by all means. Ideally, it would be to quiet down the place, a bit of soft music. Music's wonderful. It's universal. It's been around for a very, very long time. Rhythm is actually the oldest of all our artistic creations. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Rhythm, then melody came. Music was the first, even before painting. We see a lot of paintings in caves and that from thousands of years ago. Well, music was before that. Just that it's not recorded, so we can't hear it. Of course, painting has an advantage that you can stay for a long, long time, especially in places where, like caves and so forth, where it doesn't get much erosion and sun and so forth. So, but music we know that music was before that. And so it's part of our DNA, if you like. We love it. You put classical music on to babies, they love it. Even some pets love music. So use music to your favor when it's time to relax, some soft music, when it's time to party. Imagine walking into a nightclub and there's just lights with no music. Music makes us want to do something. There's a rock band on, you feel a certain way. You watch a movie and the tension arises with a cello, and without that music, we wouldn't feel even half of what we do. So I advise people to use that for themselves in daily life, especially today that we've got all these apps that we get music from anywhere and from any time, just at the tip of our fingers. When I was young, we had to wait for it to come on the radio. And it was wonderful too, in a way. It was like watching a show where you watch one episode and you got to wait a week for it. There was sort of magic about that. So you wait for it. These days we don't need to, which is more comfortable, but sometimes we lose that magic of waiting and we lose the ability of developing our patience. That's one of the things of today's world, that everything has to be quick. And that's fine for us that we've lived that other life. It's valuable today because we can compare and go, wow, I can do this and that. That's why cooking's so wonderful when you do it yourself rather than just buy it made, So Sunday to Thursday night, same time you go to bed, same time you get up, regardless of whether you've got something to do. The brain loves that. Even if you've got nothing to do, get up that time. You get into a good structure. Then Friday and Saturday, of course, feel free to leave it open, I think. The reason why I explain with the children is because for you guys to understand that, I didn't invent this. It's good for us. It's just like drinking water when you're thirsty. And our life, especially modern life, provides us with obstacles and difficulties that some nights you can't get to bed. I know, I understand that. But for most nights, if you've got that routine, you'll feel a lot better. If we weren't living in a civilized society and we were living in a state of nature, as we call it, where it would be either in the middle of the desert or in the jungle or in the bush, or wherever it may be, human beings have lived all around the globe for thousands of years. So we're very adaptable creatures, in the snow and so forth. Because of our brain, we can actually survive as well. We can create weapons, we can make clothes to survive in it, where most other animals have their regions where they live. So throughout that time, people would be much more connected to nature because you go to bed with the sun going down, you get up with the sun going up. Simple. And because we're not nocturnal creatures, we're not like owls and all these other, we live better during the day. And the night is also a time that if we were living in the state of nature would be a time of danger, wouldn't it? Because when we are asleep, we're vulnerable. And so in that case, there probably would be some people taking turns and so forth, and you'd make huts or something to protect yourself from the weather and maybe some smaller animals. If any one of us or all of us were put in the middle of the jungle, after about 2 months, we'll all adapt. We'll work out what we could eat, what the dangers are and so forth. And obviously through trial and error, we're very adaptable creatures. But one thing's for certain would be going to sleep when the sun goes down and getting up when the sun gets up. And sometimes we would decide to go hunting or something at night, and that's fine because it would be beneficial to us to survive. But for most of the time would be going up and down. So it is natural for us to do that. So going to bed too late isn't good for us. That's definite, 100%. We all like to because we feel like we're cheating time, you sleep when you're dead type thing. But if you go to bed earlier and get up earlier, it's far better for us. So you still got the same time awake, but the morning's much more beneficial for us for many, many reasons. So that's another reason why we need that structure.